Okay.
Hello, today I have Tony Forder, who is currently living in Peterborough with his wife. He's the author of the Bliss series and also has a standalone 15 Coffins and a couple of other ones. He's got his Bliss prequel coming out on the 7th of December. Hello, Tony. Would you like to start off by telling us about your Bliss novella and why you decided to write it?
Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me, Donna. Yeah, the Bliss novella was just, as I described it the other day, an itch I had to scratch. I had just a few little bits of backstory that I wanted to tell, and I didn't really think there was a good place for any of them in the main books. So I only thought of a short story, and I worked a little bit on that, but it soon became clear that if I wanted to include some of the characters, his wife and his dad, who in the books we only refer to, it was pretty clear that it was going to have to be bigger. But I didn't want to write a full novel. I don't really like prequels, having written one. So I thought, well, I've never done a novella. I might as well have a go at that because it's, it's about 40,000 words compared to 120. So yeah, I do what I normally do with Bliss and give him a couple of things to sort of expand his mind. And then we had a good look at his past as well. We meet Hazel, his wife, and we meet his dad as well as his mum. So overall, it was something I just felt I had to do, and I really liked the story. So it was just a matter of putting my head back in time and thinking of what the characters were doing at the time. Fortunately, I have it all mapped out, his whole life. So it was easy to refer to the relevant dates, But yeah, I really enjoyed writing the book. And even though I'm not a fan of novellas, and I know a lot of people aren't, yeah, I really enjoyed the end result.
Awesome. Do you find yourself writing your own personality into Bliss, even if it's unconsciously?
Oh, it's a bit of an odd one. I don't really see it, and I'm not conscious of it, but to read in bed, to sleep, I wish she's reading one of mine. And she's so you. Oh, she's sarcastic. That's so going into about me. I suspect all of his better parts are not me. Every word, especially the. But I like to think I'm often as brutally honest as he is. Some people don't like you being honest with them, and some people can take it. But people can live with that or not.
What do you think it is about Bliss that's made him become so popular?
Well, again, I think as I can make him. And I know people say he has baggage. I don't really see it as baggage. I just think it's a life lived. Things happen to people in life, and things have happened to him. I don't think it's excessive. But he has a certain attitude towards life, that's for sure. But I think most of all, it's his dogged determination to do the right thing. I think first and foremost, above all else, he wants to do best for the victims in any case that he's investigating. And he's a bit of a miserable sod. He's also got a sharp wit, and he uses that to deflect things in life. But I think people like his doggedness and his loyalty, and I think a lot of you know, a lot of blokes have told me who read Bliss say they feel as though they could enjoy a pint with him, and women have other plans for him apparently.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean. I
Yeah, I mean,
guess,
some people don't like it. Some people turned off by Bliss immediately. I think, you know, quite admiring.
yeah, I guess as well, if you're writing a character that men want to have a drink with and women like as well, then you're winning in all senses.
I
You
think so. I think, you know, dogs I have trouble with, you know, that kind of thing, because I put them off. But that's just an unfortunate side effect, you know.
um, in 15 Coffins, you switch settings to the USA and you switch to a female lead. Any
Yeah.
reason for this?
Well, the idea of 15 Coffins came to me sort of pretty much in one complete hit. So I knew the story I wanted to tell, but I just, when I thought about the story, I couldn't see any characters in it. It was just, here's the story I want to tell. It felt right to be small town America because of the storyline. It just fitted with small town America more than any other place that I could think of. So my choice then was really who's going to be my lead, and it felt a little bit naff to go with you know, an English person relocated. So I thought, well, I'm going to buy into it wholly. It's set in America. It's going to be all Americans in the character list. And then I took the final plunge of making the main character female, which, I mean, I've written female characters before, as you know, but taking on the weight of the story, that was different for me. And so it was a bit of a challenge. You know, it's set in America, it's Americanisms, it's a female character. That was the challenge, was, you know, appealed to me quite a bit. But it just felt right for the story, frankly. The story came first. That's not always the way, but it just everything right. And because I know that part of America quite well anyway, um, it was easy for me to see it all in my head. It was the toughest part was writing Sydney, to be quite honest.
You wouldn't know it.
It really was. I mean, I really had to shut myself off from thinking about anybody else, because often I write two things at the same time. Um, but with that, once I got to the nitty gritty of it, I just had to think and focus on Sydney, because I had to sort of, there were so many more scenes. I mean, obviously with Penny Chandler in the Bliss books, she's in the book quite a lot, but she plays the secondary role to Bliss. Whereas here, it was like every main scene features Sydney. So that took a bit of getting used to.
Yeah. You've had fantastic reviews for 15 Coffins, and everyone on Facebook seems to really want a sequel. And I think they'd love to know if you're planning one.
Well, I'm not planning one. I never, it was a weird book, really, because when I first started, it was an absolute standalone. About 2/3 of the way through, I was starting to really enjoy myself with it. So I started thinking, well, you know, perhaps this could be a series. So I even started drafting out a couple of storylines for future books. So, but when I finished it, I realized that, well, I don't know how well it's going to do. It's a very different book. People might not take to it. So I changed the ending somewhat to tie off a few more loose endings, so as it would be um, an absolute standalone, but with just a tiny little teaser right at the end to suggest there could be more. So it kind of leads, um, as I've said to a few other people, if I were to write it, you know, I've got to think about how well it's selling, and it's doing okay. Um, but I don't know whether it's doing okay enough to have a second book. But I'm not ruling it out, that's for sure, because I'm absolutely staggered at how many people have not just enjoyed it, because I've had some of my best ever reviews, um, but also have liked Sydney. Because my main issue when I finished with it, because I was sitting on it for like 18 months before I released it. And a lot of people went behind persuading me to publish it, because I really just wasn't convinced about Sydney. Now Sydney seems to be the most popular part about the book. So yeah, it's made me rethink, but at the moment I have no plans.
Okay. Why did you decide to go self-published? Because you started off with Bloodhound, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Well, I think everybody has the occasional niggle with a publisher, and I think that's to be expected when you're dealing in business with something about that's your intellectual property, if you like. And but at the end of the day, the thing that persuaded me most was that they wanted me, and had wanted for a little while, for me to drop Bliss. They were quite partial to me writing a completely different series, and they kind of went from being really pro Bliss and sort of saying, you know, write us as many as you can, to actually lengthy series tend to sort of fade off. So could you do another series for us, you know, sort of aiming at 3-4 books. And I was convinced that there was more legs in Bliss than they thought. And that was really sort of the crunch point for me. We'd done 5 together, the first 5, and Endless Silent Scream I was writing. But at the end of when The Death of Justice came out, they said to me, you know, can we now move on to something different? And I said, well, I'm already writing this, so I want to finish it. I'm going to finish it, basically. And they said, all right, well, we'll take this one, but then can you move on to something else? And I said, well, no, there's no point. I think this series has got more books in it. So we just, you know, we parted amicably. I'm still with them. They still publish my first 5 books. So, you know, we parted amicably, but I felt I wanted to write Bliss, so that was the only way I could do it, was by leaving.
Okay. Does the support of other authors help you on bad writing days?
Oh, very much so. I mean, it's great when people like yourself and other supporters, readers who have become friends. It's great, you know. There's a vast support group there, but not to sound naff, but writers know how you feel. You know, other writers know how you get, because it's not obvious from the outside that you fret about stupid things, but you do. You know, you fret about your characters, you fret about, you've got 6 months work that you don't know is going to work. You don't know if it's going to appeal. So every now and then you need that boost. And I've been very fortunate to meet quite a few authors who have been wonderfully supportive. I don't really want to name too many because I'll miss out on a few, you know, but the people who put me over the edge when I'm sort of flaking out are people like Liz Mystery and Maggie James, especially. They kind of boost, well, you know what Maggie's like anyway. She's always threatening. But Liz is great too. She's very supportive. But as a collective, we support each other. You know, there's a small group of us who, whenever we want to vent or whenever we have an issue, we talk about it amongst each other. And I've just found people, the vast majority of other writers are just, you know, so free with their time and so helpful. Yeah, I mean, as I say, I don't want to go through the whole list, but Andy Barrett is another one who's been very supportive for me.
Yeah, I've found everyone I've spoken to so far has said the same, that they've got a little group that they know that they can go to. and it's really
I think
nice.
it's vital for you because it's a, you know, it's a very you're in isolation when you write. You know, you block out everything else, and it's too easy to stay in there, you know, on your own with everything just inside your head. And to be able to speak to another writer who can sort of, who knows, has been there, has done it, and has been through that same anxiety as you are. And we all, you know, I mean, I don't know about the biggest selling authors, but most of the ones I know, we all get extremely anxious when a book is about to come out. You know?
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Insecure bunch that you are. You're all
Well,
amazing and you're all insecure. It's mad.
yeah. Yeah, there's very little ego around, I can tell you.
No, I know, not at all. Would you like to see Bliss made into a TV series, and who would you see as playing Bliss and Chandler?
Well, I think everyone would like it. I mean, my one slight doubt is that I've seen a few that I haven't liked. And I think to myself, oh, I don't know. It would be really nice to see Bliss and Chandler on the TV, but the Bliss and Chandler that I know, rather than, you know, what a TV company might do with it. But yeah, of course, I'd love to see them. I'd love to see them live. I only recently started thinking about who I could visualize, particularly with Bliss, because he's always been a vague character in my head because I haven't wanted to put a stamp on him, if you know what I mean. But in thinking about it, I came up with a real odd one in Sean Pertwee, because I'd seen him in an American show where he played an English copper. And listening to him and looking at him, I thought, blimey, yeah, he could be Bliss. He could definitely be Bliss. And as for Penny, I've always had Claire Goose in mind. I don't know if you know Claire Goose, but somehow I've always, right from very early on, I've seen her face. Now, I know that Bliss often gets compared in the book, gets compared to Ray Winston. People think he looks a little bit like Ray Winston. So a lot of people might think of him when they think of Bliss. But, you know, Ray's getting on a little bit now, so.
Yeah.
He's even older than I am, so.
I wouldn't know. I'm not asking. So you said about having your support network of fellow authors, but you're also known as being one of the politest authors on Facebook, and you're probably one of the most prolific. So you must enjoy interacting with your readers on Facebook.
Well, I do now. I've got to tell you, when I first knew what I really had to do across social media, it terrified me. I'm not, until I get to know people, I'm not the most outgoing of personalities, you know. I'm very introspective. And I know it sounds absurd a little bit, but I'm also a little bit shy. So, yeah, it terrified me, the thought of having to, you know, engage with strangers. But what made it so easy was that so many people are just so bloody pleasant, you know. They're so nice, and it made it so much easier for me just to actually get out there and deal with people. Now, at first, I knew it was something I had to do. Then I started enjoying it, and now I look forward to it because I think it's great to engage with people. You know, it's not always brilliant when somebody says they don't like what you're doing, but if they're kind of, yes, they've got a reasonable explanation. If they're not just saying, "Oh, I can't stand it, it's rubbish," but if they say, "Well, I don't quite like this, or I don't quite like that," well, that's fine, because we all have our likes and dislikes. But generally speaking, you know, people are very kind, and they for some bizarre reason, they like engaging, and so do I. You know, but I can tell you, it's something I felt very different about 3 years ago.
Yeah, as a reader, it's nice to be able to know that I can tell you that I love your books. And, you know, years ago we couldn't do that. We'd read them and maybe we'd
Mm.
leave a review and maybe we wouldn't. But actually, to be able to straight away go, oh my God, and, you know, you made me cry again, then yeah, that's really nice for us as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, in one way, it's easier for people like me because we don't have the readership that the likes of Michael Connolly and Ian Rankin do. You know, I mean, it's impossible for people like that to do what I do, because they would just never do anything else. You know, when you've got hundreds of thousands of even millions of fans, it would be impossible. Um, but, you know, I mean, well, you would have seen a thread last night, I think, that really went on. And it took me ages, really hours, to comment on all of them. But I feel as though my view is that if people take the time to say something nice about your work or comment, then you owe them even a thank you, you know, if not other reactions. I think it's the least I can do. Even though it's, yeah, I was up till quite late last night doing it.
That's why you're known as the politest author.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's only really come from one person, and it really stuck. And she really does, you know, every opportunity she gets. Oh yes, the world's politest author. I'm really not.
Well, no one disagrees with us, so she must have a point. Okay, so post this crazy world, post lockdown, no restrictions anymore. What's your perfect day look like?
Um, well, if we leave aside things like family and stuff like that, my kind of best day would be if I was starting off in Northern California, right? So I'm already there. Imagine that's where I'm already at. I haven't got to fly there. I'm already there. So I'd start off at a place, well, I'd start off at a nice diner in a place called Columbia. It's a lovely little, just think American diners, and this place is it. It does everything, and it does it beautifully. So I'd start off there with a big breakfast, at least 3 cups of coffee. And then I'd drive up to a place called Pinecrest, which I love. And it's a Pinecrest lake, and it's surrounded by pines and mountains, and it's just beautiful. It's idyllic. But it's only idyllic for about 2 hours before the crowd comes in. So between about 9 and 11, that's where I'd be. Nice and peaceful, only a handful of people around. Then I'd drive over to Yosemite, because I love Yosemite. It's a beautiful park. It's got some great things, much of which I've never seen because it's just too vast. And I've been there about 4 or 5 times now, and I love it there. And there's some great waterfalls there, which I love as well because I'm very into water. And I'd finish it off the day actually with 2 more water things. So I'd hire a plane and fly to Monterey, and I'd have dinner at one of their restaurants, which are actually on the water almost. Yeah, I've been there a couple of times, and they've got some fabulous restaurants there. And as I say, you're surrounded by the ocean, and it's beautiful there. And then I'd finish off the night driving down to Carmel, which is only 20 minutes away. And there's a few bars that are right on the beach. Sit there with a nice pint in my hand, chilled in a chilled glass, watching the sun go down. That sounds like just a perfect day.
It does. It really does.
It does to me. I'm a man of simple pleasures.
Is there anything surprising that you can tell us about yourself?
um, I mean, I've done one or two things online before where I've revealed certain things about my past. But there's one thing I can guarantee nobody listening in will know, and that is I once performed at the Royal Albert Hall. And if I tell you that I was about 10, and when I was at infant school, I quite fancied a girl, and actually she was called Donna, and she joined the country dancing team. So in order to gain favour with her, I also joined the country dancing team. Now, I know that's almost impossible to imagine me prancing around in a country dancing, but I joined the team. And we happened to win a borough competition, and all the boroughs in London had a final at the Royal Albert Hall. So there I was, country dancing at the Royal Albert Hall. So I can just say, if I miss off that, all the rest of that, I can just say to people, yeah, I performed at the Royal Albert Hall, no biggie.
It's still a cool story, actually, even with the rest of it. It's quite cute. As much as men hate being told they're cute, that's cute. Are you working on anything at the moment?
Well, what I've been working on today actually is the next Bliss. It's in my head and pretty much everywhere else. It's called the Autumn Tree. Now, it's only called the Autumn Tree because I had this weird theme. I saw a quotation which had the word bliss in it and the autumn tree. And actually, one of the characters, one of the characters in it is called Autumn. So I just felt, oh, this is getting very themey here, you know. So I've called it the Autumn Tree. There is possibly a better name for the book, which has since come out. So I don't know for certain if that will be its final title. But yeah, so I'm working on Bliss. I only just realised the other day that I'm about 75,000 words into it, and I can't see the end of the yet. I'm looking over the horizon and I'm not seeing the end. So I feel as though I've got plenty to prune there. I've also written about 30,000 words of a new book, which might be a new series, but I don't know if I'm going to go ahead with that. I think, as I've told you before, my plans are like confetti. They're scattered around me. And they just blow all over the place. And I really, really don't know what I'm doing from one day to the next. The only thing I can tell you for absolute certain is that Bliss 8 will come out, hopefully in the spring. Prior to that, I'm getting the rights back to 3 of my books, and one of them I'm going to republish in February, and that's Degrees of Darkness. So those are the 2 next things on my list of things to do. So I did a little bit of editing of Degrees of Darkness today. I'm not doing much to it, but I'm just going over it and looking for typos and stuff like that. So I'm going to have that ready for February release, as I say. Hopefully the Autumn Tree will be out in the spring. And I should know early in the new year what my plans are for after that, but it might be another Bliss.
Awesome. I can't wait.
Well, I'm thinking if I don't go ahead with this other book, I might nick the plot and give it to Bliss.
Yeah, that works, I suppose. Then you're already got a big chunk of the story done for you.
I already did it actually with Slow Slicing, because when I first drafted out Slow Slicing, it was for a brand new character. So the style I had in my head, it was going to be a new first book of a new series. But after I started writing it, I thought, oh no, this is really a Jimmy Bliss book. So it just felt more like his than someone else's.
Yeah.
He's taken over my life.
Yeah, I can imagine. And my last question is, where can we find out more about you and your books?
Yeah, well, I suppose mean, obviously, I have an Amazon author page. I've got a website, which is tonyjforder.com. And also another great site is Fantastic Fiction. That, I mean, its profile is quite a bit out of date, but actually it's very hot on getting the books on there. So it's already got Bliss Uncovered on its page, you know, even though it's not yet published. So they're very hot on that part, even if the profile's out of date. The most up-to-date profiles are on my website and on the Amazon page. But yeah, people can find about, obviously I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, I don't use it much. I'm on other things, but I don't use them much. But I suppose mainly if anyone wants to come to Facebook, they can ask me anything they want.
Pretty much literally as
well. Well, I've tried to engage with technology, but as you discovered when I tried to hook up onto this thing earlier on, I'm pretty laboured at it. Anything to do with phones, I'm rubbish.
You've done fine. You're too harsh on yourself.
I realised where I was being stupid. So yeah. I always work on the basis that I'm at fault and then go from there.
Yeah, well, I suppose when you've worked in IT, then it's usually a good place to start, isn't it?
Oh no, when you work in IT, it's other people. Users. Blame users. Yeah. If you look in support, you blame users. It's never your fault.
Okay, I think that's everything. Thank you very much.
Well,